How often do we find ourselves caught in the whirlpool of emotions, entangled with people, events, and outcomes that seem to define our happiness or sorrow? Perhaps you've noticed this pull, the way your heart races when anticipating someone's approval, or how disappointment lingers long after a cherished plan falls apart. These feelings aren't merely inconvenient, they can cloud our judgment, disrupt our peace, and bind us to suffering. But what if there was a path to freedom from this emotional entanglement, a way to engage with life fully yet without being overwhelmed by it? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This timeless insight lies at the heart of Stoicism, an ancient philosophy that offers practical wisdom for cultivating emotional detachment, not by suppressing or denying our feelings, but by nurturing a balanced relationship with them. The Stoics teach us that detachment isn't indifference, it's a conscious choice to disentangle our sense of well-being from the unpredictable tides of external circumstances. Consider how often your distress arises from attachments, expectations placed on others, dreams held tightly as if unchanging, or the desire to control outcomes beyond your reach. These attachments, while natural, can become chains that bind us to anxiety and frustration. Through Stoic practice, we learn to loosen these chains, freeing ourselves to remain compassionate and present without being dependent on what we cannot govern. The first rule to embrace is recognizing what lies within your control and what does not. This distinction is the cornerstone of Stoic tranquility. You cannot command the actions of others, nor can you guarantee the unfolding of events according to your wishes. Yet, you do possess sovereignty over your own thoughts, judgments, and responses. Accepting this truth is not resignation, it is empowerment. Imagine a captain steering a ship through a storm. The captain cannot calm the sea or change the wind's direction, but she can adjust the sails and steady the helm. In the same way, your mind is the helm that guides your emotional ship through life's tempests. When you fixate on the uncontrollable, another's betrayal, a sudden loss, or a missed opportunity, you surrender your power and invite turmoil. But when you focus on your own reasoned choices and attitudes, you cultivate an inner fortress of calm. Let me share a small story. A close friend once confided in me about his despair after a business partnership dissolved unexpectedly. He felt betrayed, powerless, and overwhelmed by anger. Initially, he tried to influence his former partner's decisions and harbored resentment. Over time, he began practicing the Stoic distinction between what he could and could not control. He concentrated on rebuilding his own ventures and maintaining integrity in his actions. Gradually, the storm within him calmed, replaced by a steady resolve. "I realized," he said, "that my peace didn't depend on his choices, but on how I chose to respond." This principle can be challenging because our minds naturally wander toward blaming external forces. The Stoics encourage us to cultivate habitual awareness. When you feel agitation rising, ask yourself, is this within my power to change? If not, why waste energy resisting what is? In doing so, you begin to reframe your experiences, shifting from victimhood to agency. Building on this, the next practice is mental preparation for loss and change, known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Rather than avoiding thoughts of hardship, the Stoics invite us to face them deliberately, envisioning possible misfortunes before they arrive. This may sound grim, but it is a profound exercise in emotional resilience. Imagine a river flowing steadily, encountering rocks and bends along its path. The river does not resist these obstacles, it adjusts its course, continuing onward with grace. Similarly, by anticipating challenges, we soften the impact when they occur. We no longer view adversity as a sudden rupture but as part of life's natural rhythm. Try this, take a moment to imagine losing something you cherish, a relationship, your health, or a treasured possession. Notice the feelings that arise. Do not deny them, feel them fully. Now, remind yourself that such losses are inevitable in the human experience. By contemplating these possibilities, you train your mind to be less surprised, less shaken. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Begin each day by telling yourself, today I shall meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." This daily meditation prepares the spirit like a warrior donning armor. It is not pessimism, but realism paired with courage. This practice also helps dismantle illusions of permanence and certainty. We often cling to the belief that what we have will last forever, that the people we love will remain unchanged, or that our plans will unfold smoothly. The Stoics gently remind us that life is transient, like shadows shifting in the light. Accepting this impermanence does not diminish the joy of connection or achievement, rather, it amplifies our appreciation and reduces suffering when change inevitably comes. Reflect now on your own attachments. Which ones cause you the most distress? Are they rooted in expectations of permanence or control? The invitation is to loosen your grip on these illusions, not by detaching from life altogether, but by embracing it with clear-eyed acceptance. This is not a call to coldness. On the contrary, it is a path to compassionate presence. When you accept that others act according to their own nature and that events unfold beyond your command, you open space for empathy rather than resentment. You become a calm harbor in the storm, offering steadiness without being submerged. The Stoics also emphasize that emotional detachment is a skill to be cultivated over time, through reflection and practice. It is not an innate talent reserved for a few but a discipline accessible to all who seek peace. Each moment of mindful choice strengthens your capacity to navigate emotional currents with wisdom. To summarize this first step, accept the limits of your control and prepare your mind for life's inevitable changes. By doing so, you begin to reclaim your power and nurture tranquility. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Pause for a moment. Consider the last time you felt overwhelmed by circumstances beyond your control. How might your experience change if you had embraced this Stoic insight? What might it feel like to meet life's challenges with steady calm rather than reactive turmoil? These reflections mark the beginning of your journey toward emotional detachment, not as a withdrawal from life, but as a deeper engagement with it, grounded in wisdom and resilience. Letting go of unhealthy dependencies does not mean losing connection, it means choosing connection freely and without bondage. Now that you have begun to see how Stoicism invites you to discern control and prepare for change, we will continue to explore how reason and perspective can help master your emotional responses. Let's move forward, cultivating the rational mind as a steadfast guide through life's unpredictable landscape. Let's continue this journey inward, moving from acceptance to mastery, a mastery not of external events, but of the emotions that arise within us in response to those events. How often do we find ourselves swept away by feelings that seem uncontrollable, as if they are storms that surge and recede without our consent? The Stoics teach us that these emotional upheavals are not the direct result of external happenings, but stem from our judgments about those happenings. Change your judgments, and the power of these emotions begins to wane. Consider this carefully. Your emotional responses are often automatic, triggered by interpretations your mind makes about what is happening. For example, when someone criticizes you, it is not the criticism itself that causes distress, but your judgment that the criticism diminishes your worth or threatens your happiness. This subtle but profound insight places the key to emotional regulation squarely in your own hands. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." Here lies a powerful invitation, to question your immediate judgments and to see them as interpretations rather than immutable truths. I recall a moment from my own life that brought this lesson into sharp relief. Once, after a public presentation, I fixated on a single critical comment from an attendee. My mind spiraled into doubt and self-reproach, feeding anxiety and regret. Later, reflecting in the quiet, I asked myself, is this criticism an absolute verdict on my abilities, or simply one perspective among many? By challenging my initial judgment, I was able to soothe my troubled mind and regain composure. It was not the comment that held power over me, but my acceptance of its narrative. This practice of examining and reframing judgments is not about denying feelings or pretending everything is fine. Rather, it is about cultivating rational control over your emotional life, transforming reactive turmoil into thoughtful response. The Stoics provide concrete methods to support this transformation. One such method is negative visualization, a deliberate exercise of imagining adverse scenarios before they occur. At first glance, this may seem counterintuitive or even morbid. Why dwell on negative possibilities? The answer lies in resilience. When you mentally prepare for misfortune, you reduce its power to surprise and overwhelm you. Like a seasoned traveler packing for an uncertain journey, you equip yourself emotionally to face whatever comes. Imagine, for instance, that you spend a few moments picturing the loss of a valued relationship or the failure of a cherished project. Feel the initial sting of that vision, then remind yourself that life's uncertainty is universal and inevitable. By doing this regularly, you build a mental muscle that allows you to remain steady when difficulties arise, rather than being tossed about by fear or despair. Seneca, another great Stoic, advised, he robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. This preparation is not a pessimistic fixation but a courageous acknowledgement of reality. It frees you to cherish your blessings without clinging blindly, knowing that loss is a natural part of existence. Building on this foundation, the fourth rule directs your focus inward. Concentrate solely on your own thoughts and actions. The temptation to control others or seek validation from outside is strong, yet futile. When you invest energy in trying to manipulate external circumstances or curry favor, you forfeit your inner peace. Reflect on how often frustration arises from unmet expectations of others. You may feel hurt because a friend failed to meet you, or angry because a colleague dismissed your ideas. These emotions stem from the mistaken belief that you can govern others' behavior. The Stoics say, let go of this illusion. Your power is in your own mind. By turning attention inward, you reclaim autonomy. You choose your responses, your attitudes, and your values. This shift transforms your experience. Instead of being at the mercy of external validation, you find a wellspring of self-respect and calm within. A friend once expressed to me the relief she felt after embracing this principle. I used to fret endlessly about what others thought of me, she shared, but when I started focusing on my own intentions and actions, I felt lighter, more grounded. I was no longer a puppet to others' opinions. Her story echoes the Stoic teaching that the only true good lies in virtue and the discipline of one's own mind. This inward focus does not mean isolation or indifference to others. On the contrary, it fosters genuine connection free from dependency. When you act from a place of integrity and self-mastery, your relationships become healthier and more authentic. Let's pause and consider your own experience. Where do you find yourself pouring energy into what others think or do? What might shift if you redirected that energy toward cultivating your own reasoned judgments and purposeful actions? This inner work is a gradual process. It requires patience and kindness toward yourself, especially when old habits of reactive emotion resurface. The Stoics remind us that progress is made one thoughtful choice at a time. To weave these teachings together, master your emotions by recognizing that they arise from judgments, practice negative visualization to build resilience, and focus your energy on your own thoughts and actions rather than external validation. In doing so, you cultivate a rational mind that serves as a steady guide through life's unpredictable storms. As Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. This freedom is not found in changing the world to suit your desires, but in changing your mind to find peace amidst it. Reflect now, how might your emotional life transform if you embraced this rational mastery? What fears or anxieties could lose their grip if you viewed them as judgments rather than facts? How would your relationships change if you acted from self-respect instead of seeking approval? These questions are invitations to deepen your practice. Emotional detachment, as the Stoics teach, is not a cold withdrawal but an empowered engagement, a dance between feeling and reason, presence and perspective. Let's move forward with this insight, preparing to explore how to view life's challenges not as threats but as opportunities for growth. Your path toward emotional resilience continues, guided by wisdom and steady reason. Let's now deepen our understanding of emotional detachment by embracing a broader perspective, one that sees emotional hardships not as permanent tragedies but as transient episodes within the vast journey of life. How often do we get caught in the immediacy of pain, thinking that a setback or rejection defines us or will last forever? The Stoics offer a gentle yet powerful reminder: these moments are fleeting, passing waves on the ocean of existence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." This perspective invites us to view challenges not as enemies to be feared but as natural phenomena that contribute to our growth. When you see emotional difficulties as part of the larger flow of life, you begin to cultivate resilience, recognizing that pain is not a permanent state but a passage toward deeper strength. I recall a time when I faced profound disappointment after a long-held dream crumbled unexpectedly. The initial wave of loss was overwhelming, threatening to engulf me. Yet, as days passed and I embraced the Stoic view, I saw that this experience was a chapter in my life story, not the whole narrative. This shift in perspective allowed me to find opportunities for self-reinvention rather than succumbing to despair. This brings us to an essential truth: detachment can transform suffering into a catalyst for growth. Instead of being immobilized by rejection, loss, or failure, you can choose to see these experiences as invitations to evolve. The Stoics encourage us to ask, how can this hardship teach me? How can it strengthen my character? Such questions do not deny the reality of pain but give it meaning. They empower you to reclaim agency even when circumstances feel beyond your control. This transformative potential lies at the heart of emotional detachment, not as numbness, but as a dynamic engagement with life's challenges. However, there is a delicate balance to maintain. Emotional detachment must not slip into emotional numbness or indifference. The Stoics emphasize cultivating emotional wisdom, a harmony between engagement and equanimity. You remain present to your feelings, acknowledging them fully, yet you do not allow them to dictate your peace or actions. Imagine standing beside a river, watching leaves float by. You observe the leaves, the feelings, as they come and go, without grabbing onto them or pushing them away. This mindful witnessing is emotional detachment in practice. It honors your experience without being overwhelmed by it. The practice of emotional wisdom also involves setting healthy boundaries. Detachment gives you the space to protect your well-being while remaining compassionate toward others. You can care deeply without losing yourself. This is a profound form of strength, one that the Stoics revered. Let me share a brief dialogue from a friend who struggled with the pain of a fractured relationship. She said, "I tried to numb the hurt by pretending I didn't care, but that only made me feel empty. When I learned to acknowledge my feelings without being controlled by them, I found a quiet strength. I could love and let go at the same time." Her experience reflects the Stoic ideal, detachment as freedom, not exile. Remember, detachment is a means to reclaim autonomy, to set boundaries that honor your intrinsic worth beyond external influence. It is a declaration that your peace is not hostage to circumstances or other people's actions. Consider the last time you felt overwhelmed by emotional turmoil. Could you imagine meeting that moment with emotional wisdom, feeling deeply, yet maintaining your inner calm? Could you see that moment as a transient wave, part of a larger river that carries you forward? This perspective invites you to transform your relationship with suffering. Instead of resisting or fearing hardship, you embrace it as part of your human journey, an opportunity to build resilience and deepen self-understanding. Through this lens, emotional detachment becomes not a withdrawal from life but an act of profound engagement, one where you participate fully yet without losing yourself. It is an art of living that balances compassion with strength, presence with perspective. As Epictetus taught, don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will, then your life will flow well. This acceptance is not passive surrender but active harmony with reality. Now, as you reflect on your own emotional experiences, consider how embracing impermanence and cultivating emotional wisdom might open new pathways to peace. How might you turn your setbacks into stepping stones? How might you nurture compassion without attachment? These questions mark a deepening of your Stoic practice, a move toward freedom and self-mastery grounded in both reason and heart. Let us continue this journey together, ever mindful that true detachment empowers you to live fully, freely, and wisely within the unpredictable dance of life.